Well, hey there, you're on the internet, I have some free time, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Now, today's ink I have in sample form by Diamine, Eclipse. It's a very dark ink. Very, very dark ink. But, yeah, there's something about it that I find quite intriguing. It's not quite purple, it's not quite blue, it's not quite gray, and it's not quite black. But, yeah, as you can see, there's some potential for water resistance, but not a whole lot. Most of the darkness remains up on top. So, yep, all the tests were done in this MonteVerde Impressa with a 1.1 stub, and this Hero 616 with a very fine nib. Now, one of the tests I say that Diamine Eclipse looks a lot like my Private Reserve Quick Dry Midnight Blues, so I thought I'd do a side-by-side comparison. And I thought it was interesting that Midnight Blues manages to be both lighter and darker than Eclipse. But, yeah, this one definitely leans more towards blue. This one sort of leans a little bit closer to purple. But, yep, so paper test. Top down in density, Clairefontaine, 90 grams per square meter. 15 seconds to dry versus 25 seconds to dry, which, I say, in the stub it performed very wet, which you can definitely see in the smear. There's good shading. You can see it in the fine too, just maybe not on camera, but in the stub you see it. It's a very dark ink. I really, there's something about it that kind of fascinates me. It's somewhere between blue and purple and gray and black. Yeah, no bleed feather spread. Dry times were longer than I would have anticipated for both pens. Now, this is not unexpected because it is a very dark ink, which means it's probably fairly saturated, so it dyed the page. It's mostly gone. Some of the stub remains, some of the fine remains, but it's very light. No bleed. Next is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter, where it took 9 seconds to dry in the fine and 21 to dry in the stub. And again, you can see in the stub it was quite wet. You don't quite get sheen, but you do get some kind of dark halo-y thing going on. You definitely see the shading here. Again, it's some weird medium color. Yep, no bleed feather spread. Mostly gone. Dyed the paper a bit. I mean, there's bits of the stub remaining. That's very hard to read. Next is Tomoe River Paper, where the fine took 12 seconds and the stub took 25, which, again, you can see how wet that must have been. And you see a lot of shading, and I think this is where I said it looks like near black, because it's just so dark. It looks like one of those free cartridges you get with pens sometimes, the black ink that's like a weak black, you know, it's just not quite there. But yeah, so water test, it's mostly gone. I mean, parts of the stub are there, but it's really mostly gone. It's very light, dyed the page a bit. Echo, of course, will be something to consider because it is very dark ink. Now, on these tests, I just used the fine nib. This is the 20-pound copier paper, and it's spread, not a massive amount, but a significant amount. Here, it looks like either an obscenely dark blue or one of those not quite blacks. Yeah, no more shading. Here's where I said it looked like midnight blues. The water test was very impressive. It did explode a bit, it did feather a bit. It was fairly dark, fairly there. Did dye the page a bit, didn't explode too much. I said really not a bad pen, paper, and ink combo. And look at that. Almost no bleed. You get spots here or there, but there's probably less than half a dozen, so not bad. Next is Mead Notebook Paper. where it took 3 seconds to dry. Here it really looks very near black. It's just off the mark. It's very dark, there's no shading. The paper reacted quite badly, but that could be a lot worse. I mean, it's a good bit of it's there. It's fairly dark. Did dye the page. And not much bleeding. Again, there's maybe like okay, that I used the Stub to write the name of the ink, but yeah, not bad. Could have been a lot worse. And last is Moleskine paper, where took 5.5 seconds to dry, and you do kind of get shading-ish, sort of, but there's some bleed, and it could be worse. The feathering is sort of more an intense woolification, though there are some spikes here and there. But yeah, water test is really not great. It exploded, it feathered, it's fairly light, the paper reacted badly. But there, you know, could have been a lot worse. So there you go. There's Diamine Eclipse. Yeah, there's something about it that just really intrigues me. It's not quite purple, it's not quite blue, it's not quite black. This is definitely appropriate for professional settings, I'll say that. So yeah, for your consideration from the Triple N Network, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching. Bye.